Good morning. Dear students, in the last video under this photochemistry, we have studied the quantum efficiency of photochemical reactions. In case of photochemical reactions, some reactions have very high quantum yield and some reactions are low quantum yield. Examples we have taken for low quantum yield is the synthesis of low quantum yield, synthesis of hydrogen bromide, photochemical synthesis hydrogen bromide, low quantum yield, and in the synthesis of photosynthesis of hydrogen chloride, high quantum yield in the synthesis of HCl, photochemical synthesis. So here to measure this quantum yield, low quantum yield or high quantum yield, we use an instrument called uranyl oxalate actinometer. There are several actinometers are in use. Commonly used actinometer is uranyl oxalate actinometer. What is this uranyl oxalate actinometer? How it works? That we shall study here. Actually, in this uranyl oxalate actinometer, the principle of this instrument is that a known amount of radiation is irradiated on the sample reacting substance, and this amount of the radiation absorbed by the sample is made use of to calculate the quantum yield. Now, we know that quantum yield phi is equal to number of molecules reacted by number of quanta or photons, number of quanta absorbed. So here to measure this number of molecules reacted, so we take in the beginning a known concentration of the solution. Here we use aqueous solution of the substance in this uranyl oxalate actinometer to measure the quantum efficiency. Number of molecules reacted that is measured there, and number of quanta absorbed that can also be read from the detector there. So by substituting these two, we can find out the quantum efficiency of any reaction. And here we use this radiation, light radiation between 250 nanometer to 450 nanometers. So light radiation is used between 250 nanometers and 450 nanometers. Usually, if you use 400 nanometers, if you use a known solution, that known solution in this uranyl oxalate actinometer used is 0.05 molar oxalic acid and 0.01 molar uranium sulfate solution. So this mixture we use. Here oxalic acid is the standard solution we use to measure the number of molecules reacted in the unknown reactant substance. So here this uranyl sulfate acts as a sensitizer. Only in presence of uranyl sulfate, this oxalic acid undergoes photochemical reaction. When this oxalic acid undergoes photochemical reaction, it decomposes to form carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and water. This is the decomposition of oxalic acid. This decomposition of oxalic acid takes place in presence of uranium ion, and it absorbs light radiation between 250 to 450 nanometers. Usually if you use 400 nanometers, usually the quantum efficiency of this solution, if you use this solution, quantum efficiency is found to be 0.58. So decomposition of oxalic acid takes place to form carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and water. So here radiation for a known time is allowed to pass through this oxalic acid solution, and the amount remaining after the decomposition is measured there, and this remaining amount of oxalic acid is known by titrating with standard potassium permanganate solution. So, a light radiation of a known wavelength is irradiated on this standard solution, oxalic acid solution containing uranyl sulfate solution. It is passed for a known time. After that time, the remaining oxalic acid is titrated against standard potassium permanganate, and from this method we know that how much oxalic acid is dissociated. The amount of oxalic acid dissociated is known by titrating with potassium permanganate, and quantum efficiency of this standard solution is known. Therefore, number of quanta absorbed can be measured. So, we know the standard quantum efficiency of the solution, and if you take some unknown solution, the amount of oxalic acid dissociated by number of quanta absorbed, if you substitute, if two terms are known, one can be calculated like that. So, okay. So, number of molecules reacted can be measured by titrating the remaining oxalic acid with the standard potassium permanganate solution. Now, this is the principle involved here. The procedure is that let us see the construction of this uranyl oxalate actinometer. In this actinometer, different parts of these instruments are source of light radiation, ultraviolet light as well as visible radiation between the wavelength 200 to 250 to 400 nanometers. 250 to 400 nanometers are here. 250 to 400 nanometers. So, that is the source of light radiation, and a lens is used to make the beam. Straight beam of light is obtained by passing the radiation through the lens, and it is made a narrow beam by passing through the slit. This narrow beam of radiation consists of several radiations of different wavelength that is passed through monochromator. Here we get monochromatic light of a known wavelength, 400 nanometer, 410 nanometer, whatever the suitable wavelength we require, that is obtained by passing through the monochromator. So, this monochromatic light is passed through the reacting substance taken in a thermostat. So, this thermostat provides a constant constant temperature. So, inside the thermostat we use the reacting substance. So, and this is the detector where it consists of oxalic acid solution, standard oxalic acid solution and uranyl sulfate solution is present there in the detector. Now, in the beginning the solvent is taken in the thermostat in which the reacting substance is dissolved. In the beginning we take the solvent and we pass this radiation through this solvent for a known time t. It is passed. So, during this period, during the irradiation period, during this time oxalic acid undergoes decomposition. COOH gives rise to, so radiation is passed through the solution in a known time, and here uranyl ion is the sensitizer. Only in presence of this oxalic acid undergoes decomposition. This uranyl ion absorbs light and then it passes on to the oxalic acid. Oxalic acid decomposes to form carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and water. So, here in the detector standard oxalic acid solution is taken and light is passed through that. So, therefore, in the detector the solution is titrated against standard potassium permanganate solution. It is titrated against standard potassium permanganate solution, and the concentration of this oxalic acid is now known. Concentration of oxalic acid is now known after passing the light through a known time t. So, from the light source this radiation is made monochromatic and is passed through the solvent in which the reaction is carried out. The solvent, the absorption of solvent, we can easily remove it, absorption of the solvent, and then it is passed through the solvent and actinometer detector. In this detector, oxalic acid undergoes decomposition. So, remaining oxalic acid is treated against potassium permanganate. Thus, the concentration C1 of oxalic acid is known before the reaction. So, after that, to carry out the experiment to measure the absorption of radiation, in this, so instead of solvent, now you take the sample, solution of the sample here in the second time. Now, you pass this radiation of the same wavelength through the sample now. In the beginning, solvent, now through the sample. Now, absorption of light by the solvent can be neglected by subtracting the absorption of light, intensity of light from the sample C2. C2 is the intensity of the light absorbed by the sample for the reaction at time t, and if you subtract C1, concentration of oxalic acid before the reaction, by the concentration of the reactant plus solvent, that is C2, if you deduct these two, you will get the concentration of the solution or concentration of the reactant which reacts for a known time t. Now, the concentration of the reactant, the concentration of the substance which undergoes reaction is known by subtracting the concentration of oxalic acid with the sample and without sample. Now, this is the concentration of the reactant which undergoes chemical reaction. So, if you know the concentration of the reactant, you can find out the number of molecules of the reactant, and standard quantum efficiency of a known wavelength is known. That is, for example, at 400 nanometer quantum efficiency is 0.58. So, quantum efficiency is known and number of molecules of the reactant is known. You can find out the number of quanta absorbed using the reaction. So, quantum efficiency is equal to number of molecules reacted in time t seconds divided by number of quanta absorbed. So, thus now you can find out the quantum efficiency. Quantum efficiency phi is for a standard solution is known, that is 0.58 for example here, that is equal to number of molecules reacted. Number of molecules can be reacted by the C of the reactant. Concentration of the reactant is known. You convert that into number of molecules by multiplying it by its molarity and Avogadro number. You can find out the number of molecules that is reacted. So, this is known. So, number of quanta absorbed can be calculated. So, number of quanta absorbed can be calculated. So, by knowing the number of quanta absorbed and knowing the number of molecules reacted, you can find out the quantum efficiency of any reacting substance. That is the working of this uranyl oxalate actinometer. So, to summarize, uranyl actinometer has these several parts: source, lens, slit, monochromator, thermostat and detector. In the beginning, the radiation is passed through the solvent to know the amount of absorption by the solvent, and that is measured by titrating the oxalic acid solution. 0.05 molar oxalic acid is present in the detector. Now, in the second time, this solvent is replaced by the sample and the absorption is recorded in the detector. So, now you deduct the concentration after the reaction, reactant and concentration of the solvent. You will find out the concentration of the reactant. Concentration of the reactant can be converted into number of molecules by multiplying it by its molarity as well as Avogadro number. Now, quantum efficiency of a known solution is substituted here and you find out the number of quanta absorbed. Therefore, one problem is here on this. One problem here, for example, you see one experiment has been carried out here. A uranyl oxalate actinometer is irradiated for 15 minutes. Now, time here is 15 minutes. So, 15 minutes in 15 minutes of time, radiation is passed through the solution, and the wavelength of the radiation is given, it is 435 nanometers. So, after 15 minutes what happens? It is found that oxalic acid equivalent to 12 ml of 0.0. So, after 15 minutes of irradiation, oxalic acid in the actinometer decomposes, remaining oxalic acid is titrated against standard potassium permanganate, and it is found that it consumes 12 ml of 0.01 molar potassium permanganate. So, volume of the solution after the reaction is known. Now, solution has been decomposed at this wavelength, at this 435 nanometer wavelength, quantum efficiency is known, standard solution 0.58. Find the intensity of the light absorbed in quanta per second. You have to find out the number of quanta absorbed, that can be calculated using the formula. Now, to answer this, you see, given that molarity of the solution is 0.001 molar solution, volume of the solution is 12 ml, and the time duration of the irradiation t is equal to 15 minutes. So, you convert this 15 minutes into seconds by multiplying that by 60, 15 into 60, that is seconds, and quantum efficiency of the standard solution is known, that is phi is equal to 0.58, and wavelength used is 435 nanometer. Now, we know that quantum efficiency is equal to number of molecules reacted in t seconds divided by number of quanta absorbed. Number of molecules, now convert this concentration into number of molecules. So, molarity is 0.001 into 12 ml divided by 1 liter, 1 liter means 1000 cc, into Avogadro number 6.023, n value 6.023 into 10 to the power of 23 divided by duration 15 minutes or 15 into 60 seconds. If you multiply this, if you simplify this, you will get 8 into 10 to the power of minus molecules are decomposed. 8 into 10 to the power of minus 5 molecules decomposed in that 15 minutes time. So, therefore, number of molecules we have calculated, and we know the quantum efficiency of the standard solution 0.58. So, we know that quantum efficiency phi is equal to number of molecules reacted by number of quanta absorbed. Number of molecules 8 into 10 to the power of 5, and quantum efficiency for standard solution is known 0.58 divided by number of quanta. So, this number of quanta of radiation absorbed by those molecules can be calculated. So, number of quanta absorbed is equal to 8 into 10 to the power of 15, that is number of molecules reacted, divided by standard quantum efficiency 0.5, that becomes 1.38 into 10 to the power of 16 quantas. 1.38 into 10 to the power of 16 quantas. Now, 1.38 into 10 to the power of 16 quantas of radiation is absorbed. Thus, we can find out the quantum of radiation absorbed, and quantum of, if you substitute this quantum of absorption of radiation to this product, you will get a quantum efficiency. So, therefore, if two terms are known, one unknown term can be calculated. So, this is the procedure to calculate, to determine the number of quanta and also quantum efficiency. After studying the photochemical reaction, photochemical reactions are the reactions when irradiated by light radiation. Chemical change takes place, it may be ionization or products are formed, chemical change takes place, that is photochemical reaction. Now, in some cases what happens, light is absorbed and emitted without any chemical change. That process is called photophysical process. Photophysical process is actually a process takes place, there is a change takes place. That change is not chemical, only physical change takes place when some substances are irradiated by the light radiation. So, the process, the change takes place by the action of, the physical change takes place by the action of light radiation on some substances is called photophysical process. Now, suppose if you take a substance, you irradiate this by light radiation, light radiation, what happens? This substance absorb light and it undergoes excited state. So it undergoes excitation. This excited state of the substance is unstable and immediately emit the absorbed light. This emission of absorbed light is of two types. Light is absorbed and emitted. In this emission, there are two types. One is instantaneous or instantaneous emission of absorbed radiation, or emission takes place slowly. Instantaneous emission and slow emission of the absorbed radiation. So, if this excited state which absorbs the radiation emit the light slowly or instantaneously, and it comes back to the ground state, original state. This is photophysical process. So, the radiation is irradiated in the substance absorbs the radiation and undergoes excitation. This excited state emits the absorbed light and comes back to the original position. This is the photophysical process. Now, if you see the instantaneous and slow mechanism, this instantaneous mechanism is called fluorescence, and the slow mechanism, slowly it emits light, that is called phosphorescence. Now, what is this fluorescence and phosphorescence? Actually, the light emitted, whether it is instantaneous or slow emission, the wavelength of the light emitted is different in both the cases. Usually, the wavelength emitted is larger than the absorbed light. Different light is emitted. Light of different wavelength is emitted. That emission is instantaneous or slow. If the instantaneous emission of light is there, it is called fluorescence, and if it is slowly, it is called phosphorescence. Now, let us see in detail what is fluorescence and what is this phosphorescence. Let us see the mechanism of fluorescence and phosphorescence. Here, if you take the substance in the outermost shell has got a pair of electrons. This is the ground state. In the ground state, the substance has got pair of electrons with opposite spins. When excited, after passing the radiation, it undergoes excitation, higher energy level. So, both the electrons, they undergo excitation, they absorb radiation and will be excited. In the excited state, they have got more energy than the ground state. This is the excited state. In this excited state, in some cases, this is unstable. It emits the light radiation and come back to the ground state. This is the excited state, and this is the ground state. So, this emission of radiation is instantaneous. This is called phosphorescence. This is the mechanism of fluorescence. This is the mechanism of fluorescence mechanism. So, in fluorescence mechanism, what happens? The substance absorbs radiation. The pair of electrons in the outermost shell that undergoes excitation, and the electron goes to the excited state, higher energy state. In the higher energy state, instantaneously it emits the absorbed light and comes to the ground state, and this is the mechanism of fluorescence. There is no change in the spin of the electron. Two opposite spinning electrons are there. Both of them undergo excitation. They are in the opposite spin even in the excited state, and they emit the absorbed radiation instantaneously, and come back to the original position. This emitted light has got the wavelength different from of the observed light, and that's why it has got different color than the observed light. Anyway, it is instantaneous, and this is the mechanism of fluorescence. So, substances which show fluorescence are, there are organic substances, fluorescein, eosine, and uranyl sulfate. So, these are the substances which show fluorescence. Fluorescence, absorption and emission are instantaneous. This is fluorescence. There is no change in the spin during fluorescence. Whereas, in case of phosphorescence, these excited electrons, they undergo a change in their state. Spin of the electrons, they will be changed to the same spin, and again the spin will be changed to come to the ground state. So, therefore, this excited pair of electrons, they undergo change in the spin. Both the electrons, they undergo change in the spin. Both of them are in the up spin, or both of them in the down spin, or pair is there. So, this is called triplet state. This is called singlet state. So, excited electron and the ground state electron, both of them are in the same spin. That is called singlet state. So, during fluorescence, the state of the electron is singlet. Whereas, in case of phosphorescence, the excited electrons, they will not come back to the ground state immediately. What happens? There is a slow process. In the slow process, the spin of the electron changes to the up spin or down spin, and then again the spin changes and come back to the ground state. So, during this process, during the change in the spin, it takes some time. Therefore, fluorescence is a slow process. Slowly it emits the observed radiation. So, some fluorescent substances are sulfides of second A group. Zinc sulfide, for example, second A group, strontium sulfide, calcium sulfide, sulfides of second A group radicals, they show phosphorescence. Apart from sulfides of second A group, zinc sulfide also shows phosphorescence. So, phosphorescence is a slow process. Slowly it emits the light, and since the wavelength of the emitted light is different from that of observed light, the color is different in both the cases. So, this is the mechanism of fluorescence and phosphorescence. So, both fluorescence and phosphorescence are two physical processes. Now, apart from this fluorescence and phosphorescence, there are other photophysical processes. One is luminescence. In this luminescence means shining, you can call it as shining, luminescence. Some chemical reactions, after the reaction, they emit the energy in the form of light radiation. That is called luminescence. Luminescence is a process where during some chemical reactions, light will be emitted. That is called, that means light will be emitted in the visible region, and that's why the shining or luminescence process is also a photophysical process. During the chemical reaction, light will be emitted, that's all. There is no chemical change there, only light energy will be emitted in the form of light radiation, that is called luminescence. Luminescence is of two types. One is chemiluminescence. In this chemiluminescence, certain chemical reactions, they emit the radiation during chemical reaction. One such reaction for this chemiluminescence is during example for chemiluminescence during chemiluminescence example when oxidation of phosphorus takes place. Phosphorus undergoes oxidation to form phosphorus pentoxide. During this process, during this chemical reaction, light will be emitted. A greenish light will be emitted during the oxidation of phosphorus. This is a chemiluminescence. Chemiluminescence is emission of light radiation during chemical reaction. Example, oxidation of yellow phosphorus. Oxidation of yellow phosphorus gives greenish light on oxidation. This is chemiluminescence. And another type of luminescence is bioluminescence. In this bioluminescence, chemical reactions in biological system. Chemical reaction in biological system. For example, in case of glowworms or sea organisms. Here in these organisms or these glowworms, biochemical reaction takes place. Biochemical reaction takes place here, oxidation of a protein called luciferin. It is a protein. When this undergoes oxidation, light will be emitted. Light emission will be there. Light will be emitted. This is called bioluminescence. So, some biological reactions, they emit light during some process, and that is called bioluminescence. Glowworms are marine organisms. They emit light during their respiration. During the emission of light, what actually happens there? Oxidation of luciferin, a protein, takes place. That is the chemical reaction takes place inside. But during that process, light will be emitted, and this is called bioluminescence. Therefore, luminescence is a process of emission of light during some process, during some respiration or oxidation. During some process, emission of light will be there. That is called luminescence. Chemiluminescence, some chemical reactions, they emit light during chemical reaction. Bioluminescence, some biological species, during some process inside their body, they produce light radiation. Glowworms are marine organisms, they produce light, and this is called bioluminescence. So, these two are the process of luminescence, chemiluminescence and bioluminescence. Next, we shall pass on to another aspect, photosensitization. Photosensitization. What is photosensitization? Photosensitization means photochemical reaction will be sensitized. It will be initiated by some substances. Those are called photosensitizers. So, photosensitizers are the substances. They act as catalysts. They are the substances which are responsible for a number of photochemical reactions. For example, let us take the process of photosynthesis. In case of photosynthesis is the formation of carbohydrates, carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide will be absorbed from the atmosphere by the plants, and water will be absorbed from the soil to form carbohydrates, CxH2O, Y times. Therefore, oxygen will be produced here. This is carbohydrate, X and Y. Now, this reaction will not take place without the photosensitizer. Chlorophyll is the photosensitizer here. Chlorophyll, a magnesium complex present in green leaves, that is the photosensitizer. This photosensitizer absorbs the solar light radiation and it supplies this absorbed radiation to the reactants, and thus these reactants, they undergo the reaction to form carbohydrates. So chlorophyll is the photosensitizer. Another reaction just we have studied, that is decomposition of oxalic acid. When radiation is passed, you will get carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and water. This reaction will not take place in the absence of photosensitizer. No reaction in the absence of photosensitizer. Therefore, we have to use uranium ion as the photosensitizer. This photosensitizer absorbs light radiation and then it supplies to the reactant. This reactant then undergo decomposition. So uranyl ion is the photosensitizer here. Chlorophyll is the photosensitizer here. Another very important example is industrial application of this photosensitization. That is, in the synthesis of a polymer from butadiene. This is the monomer. Butadiene, 1,3-butadiene undergoes polymerization to form CH2, CH, double bond CH, CH2. This is the polymer produced. This polymerization will not take place when energy is passed through this. Only in presence of a photosensitizer this reaction takes place. Such photosensitizer is diphenyl carbonyl. That is the photosensitizer here. This photosensitizer, diphenyl carbonyl, this undergoes polymerization. 1,3-butadiene undergoes polymerization to form a polymer. So like this, a number of reactions, photosensitization reactions are there, which takes place only in presence of a photocatalyst, a photosensitizer. Like that, the reaction takes place. Another important aspect under this photosensitizer is photoinhibitors. These photoinhibitors, they are opposite to that of photosensitizer. They decrease the rate of the reaction. They deactivate photochemical reaction. Those are called photoinhibitors. One such photoinhibitor example is in the photosynthesis of HCl. If a traces of oxygen is present, the quantum yield of HCl will be reduced. Quantum yield will be reduced. So therefore, this oxygen deactivates some steps. Therefore, the yield will be less. Therefore, oxygen is the deactivator or inhibitor, photoinhibitor. So these two are again opposite, photosensitizers and photoinhibitors. Photoinhibitors reduce the rate of the reaction, whereas photosensitizers initiate and enhance the rate of the photochemical reaction. So the presence of a slight small amount of oxygen during the photosynthesis of HCl, it reduced the quantum yield. Similarly, presence of compounds like nitric oxide, sulfur dioxide, propylene, many substances, these substances, they inhibit many reactions. Many photochemical reactions will be inhibited, many reactions will be inhibited by nitric oxide, sulfur dioxide, propylene, so like that. These type of substances are called photoinhibitors, photosensitizers and photoinhibitors. So therefore, these are the important concept of this photochemistry. Now, after completing this photochemistry in this physical chemistry branch, so let us start another topic, radiation chemistry. Radiation chemistry is a branch of physical chemistry which deals with the reaction. Takes place when high energy radiation is irradiated on the substance. So, a high energy radiation is irradiated on the substance. High energy radiations like alpha rays, beta rays, gamma ray, X radiation. These high energy radiations, when irradiated through the substance, reaction takes place, and the reaction is very high energetic reactions, and it gives a number of products. This is called radiation chemistry. Radiation chemistry is a branch of physical chemistry which deals with the chemical reactions, reactions of the substance when irradiated by high energy radiations like alpha radiation, beta radiation, gamma radiation, X-rays, and so on. So, here high energy radiations are irradiated. There is a difference between photochemistry and radiation chemistry. Photochemistry deals with the visible radiation and ultraviolet radiation, reactions due to visible and ultraviolet radiation, mild radiation, whereas this radiation chemistry deals with the chemical reactions when irradiated by high energy radiations, alpha, beta and gamma radiations. The process, the mechanism of the reactions are different in both the cases. Now, let us see the difference between photochemistry and radiation chemistry. Photochemistry, radiation chemistry. So, this photochemistry deals with the reactions due to radiations of ultraviolet and visible radiation. Visible radiation, whereas radiation chemistry deals with the chemical reactions produced by alpha, beta, gamma and X-rays. That is one of the difference. Second difference is this photochemistry involves visible radiation. The energy is less than, the energy is between 1 to 10 electron volt, whereas here it is more than 100 electron volt. That is the second difference. Third difference is that here absorption and emission in single step, whereas here absorption is in single step and emission in several steps. And the instrument we use for this, as you know, this is actinometer. Actinometer is used. Here we use the instrument dosimeter. Dosimeter is the instrument used here. And here, using actinometer, we calculate the quantum yield of the reaction, whereas here we measure using dosimeter ionic yield, like that. And here only the dissolved substance, only the substance dissolved undergoes reaction, whereas here the substance, solvent and impurity, all of them will be reacted. So, these are some of the differences between photochemistry and radiation chemistry. In photochemistry, we use UV light or visible light, whose energy is between 1 to 10 electron volt, whereas here we use alpha, beta, high energy radiations, alpha, beta, gamma radiations, and always it involves very high energy, more than 100 electron volts, and here absorption takes place and emission in single step. Absorption takes place, undergoes excitation. Excited molecule will be converted into product. Absorption in single step. Whereas here absorption takes place in single step, the absorbed molecule is responsible for further reaction, and this secondary stage, secondary reactions are of several steps. Disintegration, decomposition are of several steps here. Therefore, and we measure their quantum yield here, their ionic yield. A ionic pair is formed there in here, excited molecules are produced. The instrument used in this case is actinometer. Example, uranyl oxalate actinometer. Actinometers are used to measure the quantum yield, whereas here dosimeter is used. Here ionic pair is formed after irradiation by the high energy radiations. Ionic the yield depends on the ionic pair produced. Therefore, we calculate the ionic yield. And the last difference is only in a solution, if you irradiate ultraviolet light or visible light, only the reacting substance or the substance dissolved that undergoes reaction. Whereas, because this high energy radiation, the substance, solvent, impurity, whatever is there in the reactant, all of them they undergo reaction. These are the main differences between radiation chemistry and photochemistry. So, in the next video, we shall discuss in detail about this radiation chemistry. Thank you.